everybody is awake from our usual dial-up internet sounds. I don't miss those sounds, but it's a good way to wake everybody up. How is everyone doing this fine afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world? Thank you for tuning in for another Friday session here. I'm going to start calling these like jam sessions. So obviously during the streams that I'm doing, I'm really focused on trying to answer as many questions as I can for you all. Things that are coming through the wire, as they say, whether it be what's going on, Stefano. Hi, Nathan. Hello, 249L5040. Now I definitely feel like I run it off to the decimal point. Hello, right? I feel like Star Trek. Okay. Oh man, you had 33.5K modems. There's a lot of people that don't know what the heck that is, right? No idea. I know, is the camera looking blurry? The only thing I can think about doing that is we can pull. Is it blurry? Does it look blurry? It's hard for me to tell because I'm on really low resolution. So anyway, well, let me know. The only thing I can do is probably quickly take it out. All right, so it's probably, hold on. Let's try this. Let's just pull down my, let's get this webcam out of here, and let me re-add it. So we'll see if that adds back to it. So we're doing it on the fly. Video capture device. We'll add it again and see if we get a better focused camera. Yeah, it's the camera, it looks like. Hold on. We're going to try the old school unhook, rehook the camera. Yeah, for some reason the camera went blurry on us. There we go. There we go. Now we're in focus. There. Now I'm big. There. Perfect. It's what you all wanted. Massive picture of me. Why would we want that? Hold on. Let me throw my filter on this. I like having the round circle. So give me 1 second. So now that we have a nice camera. There we go. Image, blend, mask. Okay. Let me get my image. Let's turn this back into a circle. Give me a second. I gotta find it. There you are. There we go. All right. And we definitely don't want me this big. That's not necessary. We definitely don't. There. Perfecto. Now we're talking. Looks good. Thanks, Frank. Okay, so there we go. On the fly changing on the webcam. Perfect. All right. So anyways, we're always talking and trying to figure out questions, right? And trying to answer as much as I can that we can do here. But I'm going to be honest with you. I got a little inspired by a book I recently bought for some other things that I'm actually working on. And I just can't help myself. I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to do a little fun project, okay? So what I got inspired by is this book. For those that don't know, I'm a big art books collector kind of guy. Like, those are really the only books I like to collect, especially for me as an artist. And this is exactly why what we're talking about today. I bought this book I'm about to show specifically for just some other projects. And honestly, there was a student of mine, she's doing something out of this book as well. And I'm like, this is a pretty nice book. I need to get this one. And then now that I have it, I'm like, ugh, I'm so inspired right now. So this is the book I'm talking about. Aliens Blueprint book. This book is pretty awesome, right? And if you guys have been with past streams, I've talked about the Star Wars one, Blueprint book, which is a must. This is that level for me. I think this book is pretty awesome. So I got inspired here. I'm going to put a link of it for the US Amazon page. So I got inspired looking through this book because honestly, I think the Prometheus ship is one of my favorite ships as well. So it's in there. It's got all of the aliens, movie ships, vehicles, things like that. The actual blueprints, right? So us as artists, we're always looking for referencing. This thing's awesome. And with that said, building anything ship wise or sci-fi, there's just stuff. This is why I like an art book. I like to flick through things, and I get inspired sometimes, like we're doing today, or I'm seeing stuff that is a cool idea, maybe it's been done before, and I put a different spin on it. I like doing this over just trying to search the internet, okay? Because that's why I find stuff that I didn't even think about doing. So I'm going to do a little bit of the aliens dropship today. I got inspired by that. I looked at it and go, you know what? I'm going to do my own dropship. We'll use the aliens dropship and use this book because I want to show how I'm taking images out of the book and bringing them into ZBrush and using them as a guide for myself. But I'm probably going to go with my own spin on the dropship a little bit because I don't want to be exactly like that one, especially if it's something I want to turn into a little bit of original artwork too. But I don't know. We'll see once as I start going here. As we go through this stream, you'll see where I'm going. So there you have it. So the first thing I want to do is bring in some images from the book, which you can see I just took pictures. You can see my wonderful fingers there holding the page flat. Okay, and I want to use these images inside of ZBrush. So I just did in the texture and import. I just imported the images so that I have them there. Okay, but for me, since we're doing something like this, I want to have these images with my model. Okay, so which makes the most sense right now is obviously not starting with something like this. Since I'm doing a ship, all right, I'm going to start with a cube. So I'm just going to use the gizmo, okay, and then hit my little gear icon and then, in essence, delete the face. And now I've got this cube ready to go, right? Perfect. It's what I've always wanted to make a ship. So we're going to go through the process that I kind of like to use to get images in and then start really quickly banging out the proportions and the size of this ship. And I think when you're doing stuff like hard surface, it's so important. Okay. So you want the workstation itself. I'm using a second generation Threadripper. I don't know. Hold on. I don't even remember what's in this system, if that's what you're asking. System information. Okay, I'm using the 16 core Threadripper 2950. So there you go. That's what I'm using, right? So Threadripper, okay, and then I've got 64 gigs of RAM. I don't know what the speed is of the RAM though. Okay. Right, so what I want to do here is get going on this and bringing in these images as a reference. Okay, so I like using the floor grid, okay, as a way to do this because I can bring images the front, back, left, right, up, down. So this is with anything, right? You can do anything with this. Okay, so I open up the front, back, and then I'm going to probably want to left, right, and up, down. So I'm just holding the shift key to do this. I click on map 1, and then it pretty much what image do I want, right? So if I click on any of the images, that's the top. There's a view, right? And then you can see this image, how it plops in, right? So this is got this image sitting here, and then the beauty of this is as I move and rotate around, that image is staying with me, okay? So I prefer this when I'm just going to use another image to quickly try and match something, right? And the next thing that I need to fix is obviously this image is the wrong direction, okay? So I'm actually going to dock this, and we're going to go to my draw, send this over here, and we have the ability here to rotate, right? So I just need to rotate that image like that, okay? So you got all this rotation ability, which is just as simple to do. And the next thing that I want, like this is an image showing also it with its landing gear down. I'm probably going to do more of like a ship with no landing gear right now, and then just work on a design that's in-flight design, as we say, okay? So the only part of the image that really I'm worried about, since I'm looking at the front view, is this right here. I'm only concerned about this portion of the image. So this is where the adjust comes into play over here. So if I come over here and click on this adjust, it's going to pull the image up. And you can see this image is rather large. It's a pretty big image that I took, okay? And all you can do is you move around the image like this, okay? And in the corners, there's going to be a red circle that you can move. In essence, this is a cropping tool. So I only need to worry about from that part of the image, okay? So you can use either these sliders here, or I mean, sorry, these buttons here, or you can use the slider right here, right? So you can just come to here and then just use this slider to crop to there, right? The top is where I want it. And then now, okay, we need to crop the left if we want. Okay, so you got these sliders here, right here. And then now you have also height too. But you can, again, just use these dots. And this image is massive. And I would say for a reference image, you don't necessarily need to go this large like I did. It's just what I did. I just went with the big image, okay? So you can see I've got the part that's all, I would say, complete opaque, right? Is what's going to be left now. So when I hit OK down here, which you guys can't see, there's an OK button near the bottom here. My title bar is in the way. So I hit OK, and then you see that plops this in. Now you can see the other problem that I did with this picture is I didn't do a very good job of taking the picture. I actually did this a little bit on purpose because I wanted to show you again, even though we have a reference image in, we did a simple rotation and we did a simple cropping. I need to like kind of adjust this image just a little bit, and that's what this angle slider will do for me, right? So I can kind of straighten that out a little bit more. And one thing I want to say for reference images, it's like this is probably really good, right? Because these images are perfect blueprints, but then also it comes down to like, you know, us taking the pictures out of the book. Like in this case, I did not take a very good picture out of the book, right? So be careful, obviously, also when you're using reference images. Keep that in mind, that how accurate actually is the image. This one's pretty darn accurate, right? So we can try and be a little more, there we go, a little more straight with it. Maybe even, what does 0.9 look like? Let's see what that looks like. Not bad. So I'm just tweaking this a little bit just to make that be more of a straight on look, right? Even though now the image is rotated. That's good enough for me. That's what I'm looking for, okay? What's going on, Motion Bug? Happy to see you. Thanks for coming by. All right, so the next thing I want to do is left, right. And that image had a good left, right for it, okay? And then you see I got a top, okay? And then there's even in that image, it's got the image of it without the landing gear. It might be better to use that, honestly. And then there's the bottom. So let's take this one for the side. Profile view. Okay, and once again, I'm going to rotate this. Okay, and now this is facing the wrong direction. The front of the ship is not facing the direction that I want. Okay, so then this is what the flip button's going to do. So now I can flip that image, get that where I want to be. And then now I want to adjust this one. And let's go ahead and start cropping out again. So now I want to crop out this part of the image. So we're going to need to about there. Looks good. And then here, right? So crop from the top. So if you want to, again, use this slider. So you go to the part of the image that you can either use the little circles or like I'm just using a slider right now. And then it's too far there. And that looks pretty good. We can probably come in a little bit more here if we want to. Oh, don't cut that fin off completely. And then what's nice actually about this blueprint, right? They got a little grid there. And then this is also the benefit of the grid with inside of ZBrush. So we're going to say, that's pretty good. We'll say okay. And then now we've got these images, right? In here. So obviously the big thing also with these is lining these up. So let me first take a look at this from the side profile. Make sure we got it. I'm going to turn this one a little bit too. So I'm going to do a little bit of an angle adjustment to this as well. We'll get that a little bit more back. Actually, might be pretty straight. I might be all right, actually. because this is what's throwing our eyes off, this blue. But looking at this, I would say here's a great way to do this. Change your offsets, right? So I'm going to drop the offset and put the landing gear right about there. So I'm also going to drop the opacity of the image a little bit. And then I'm also, in the modifiers down here, okay, I'm going to up the frame rate of the actual floor grid to help me line things up. So if you look at this landing gear and this landing gear right here, right? This is how I can see, even help myself, how straight really am I right now, right? So you can see I am not that straight. So let's go ahead and adjust this so that they are more where I would want them. And I'm using the floor grid as a guide. There we go. That's better. And then now I'd probably do the same thing here. So you can see this floor grid part right here. That's pretty good right there. So front on view looks good. Okay. And then I've got the side view looks good. Profile. And then there you go. Right. So now I've got I've got the front. I've got a side. I'm going to throw in a top view as well. So we're going to go now to my up down. So we'll unclose this so we're just only looking at this. Just so visually you guys can see what I'm messing around with. Map 1. And we need, I think that's the top right there. Right? So now I have this. Okay, there's the top. And once again, I need to rotate this, first of all, to do something like that. And then I'm going to crop this one as well. So I'm going to adjust this. Okay. And let's go ahead and get our cropping tool once again. We don't need my finger. That's for sure. Okay, so I'm going to say right about there. Okay, this needs to come out more here. And then definitely needs to come way more back here. All right. Got to get that back tail in. Okay, I don't need this much. And then there we go. All right. And then I'm going to do some other adjustments here. Okay, I'm just going to make it a little bit brighter. I'm just going to brighten it up more. Okay, and then hit OK. Okay, I'm just putting a little bit more brightness in there too. So now that we have this, let me take care of the rotation, right? Because again, I didn't take great images of this, but you are seeing that's not even, say, that big of a deal, right? So I'm now looking at this line right here with these. So I'm gonna adjust those a little bit. Give me more something like in there. Okay. So now we've got these 3 images in, but now we got to take care of the next thing in here, which is they don't line up yet, right? They're not correctly lining up. Let me up the opacity a little bit more of the images now. So you can see the bottom one's even brighter than the other ones because of what I did, right, in that cropping ability. I up the brightness. So the next thing I want to do is, and here's a great thing to do, I'm going to stretch this, okay, this cube a little bit. Oops, not a rotation. I'm going to say just at least generally get this. Okay, the reason why I'm going to do that is what you can also do with this is when you scroll over a model, you can see there's protruding lines, right? So there's these green, red, blue. It's going to help me try and line things up, right? So if I look at from, say, this angle, okay, and coming in here, what I want to do now is I'm looking at the cannon at the front of this right now. I'm looking at this part of the image right here. I'm looking here. I'll zoom in so you guys can visually see. I'm looking at this part of the image there, right? And then same thing here. So by me doing this, having a mesh that's, say, big enough, and again, I could go even just a little bit bigger if I want to. Okay, you can make this be a little bit bigger, and then you got this line that can help you line things up. Okay, so you can see that where that red line is hitting and where that green line is hitting, they don't quite line up perfectly yet. Okay, so the red line's ending right about in there, but the green line's not. Okay, so I'm going to go with the image on the bottom. I'm going to scale that up a little bit more. So the up, down, Okay, I'm gonna scale this up. I don't even need that much scale. Let's just start pretty low, something like this, and then let's reevaluate our images again. Okay, so you see, even that was a little too much of a scale. Like I'm saying, it's not a lot of difference, but having this ability, there we go. That's almost right on, right? So that line right there that I see in this image, right? This line right there. I'm sure you guys can probably see that better now. Yep. I'm going with that is the line right there, right? So, and when I do this, right, you can see those images, you know, how are they lining up? Okay. So we've got a good placement there. Now we've got a problem with the front, right? Okay, so this is just way too big, the front view. Okay. So I'm going to go back now to front and back, and then this does need to get scaled down a lot more. Okay, and it looks like this, right? I'm using, again, once again, the floor grid here, right? So if this is that back fin wing part, I need this to fall below that, right? I need to use something here as a little bit of a guide for me to work on that. Okay? And then of course we can start lining things up. So now if I make this mesh a little bit bigger, right, we can start looking at where this lines up. Okay, so I think I would go a little bit more, so I can see where we're lining up. Okay, so right about there. So this, I'd say, let's go 0.5. See where that's sitting? Almost there. Let's just try 0.4. I like to jump kind of in this. You can see that's way too big. So let's go 0.45 and kind of work it. That's still too small. 0.47 then. Yeah, we're starting to get there now. There we go. Right? And if you want more, what these lines are doing is they're using the topology that's in this. Okay? So if I was to just divide this up some more, right? The more points I have here, then the more range I have from lining these items up. Okay? So you see what I mean? Okay? What's going on, Sina? All right, so that is all important to me of how I'm going to now, boom, I've got these images all lined up now to a spot where I've got at least the right proportions happening, okay, for me. And I can start now mapping out, how do I want to go now at this? Like, what is my next way of attacking now that I have some images for this blueprint-wise, okay? Yeah, the stream is always recorded. It'll be up on our YouTube and our Twitch channel after. Okay? Could you use the existing grid of images to scale? Oh, you're talking like actual to scale. You can, but that's going to be dependent upon, you're going to need to scale the mesh first. Okay, so as an example, if I'm going to do that, right, if you're trying to say I want those images to be a particular scale, our floor grid doesn't have any measuring or anything like that. But it doesn't. But the best thing would be the model itself is what you want to use, okay? Because there's other things that we're going to be able to do with the floor grid. So once again, when I go in the draw palette, there's going to even be the ability, okay, to project the images right on the model, right? So now instead of them being in the back, I'm looking at this, and you can clearly see where things are being cut and where things are not being cut, right? So this is going to help me establish the length of the meshes, right? The width, the height, okay? And then this is one thing that we can do. So what you're also going to be able to, besides doing something like this, there are snapping features, okay? And you can come in here and you can see, you can snap this grid to the model, right? So that's the key part. If you're going to try and say, hey, I want to have something to be measurement-wise, then this is what I would do. I would take this cube in this case, what we have right now, and I would go into our plugins, okay? And I would go into our scale master, and then I would say set scene scale. And what this is doing is this particular block does have measurements, but just like any other programs, we don't know, is this inches, millimeters, centimeters, or feet, right? We know what the numbers are, but you got to tell us what the measurement is, okay? So ZBrush's default world scale is actually millimeters. That's why you only see one number for the millimeters and you see two numbers for the other. Because then what we're doing is, hey, this cube is 2.71 by 1.75 by 5.44. But is that number in millimeters, centimeters, feet, or inches? And then what we do is, no. It's supposed to be, we've calculated the math. So if this number was actually in inches, it would be this number in inches, this number in feet, and this number in centimeters. In essence, we're doing the math that you would need to do. Okay? So if I say this is now in inches, right? This is now set my world in inches. Okay? So if you have this now, and you have certain images with certain sizes, you can now use that in a way. And if you look, even this transpose line now has these dashes right here. Okay? Those are actually measurement tools as well. So here, if we turn off the floor grid and we just look at this, okay, and I'm going to turn on my polyframe so you guys can visually see what's happening. I can actually click from one point to any point, right? And I can obviously click on angles, or I can go straight across, like things like this, right? And this is snapping. And in this is giving you measurements. So every large dash is an inch, okay? And all the small ones are a 1/4 inch now. Not only that, we tell you what the measurement is from this point to this point up here, right? And this is a look up here in the top left corner. So I am measured, this is measuring right now 2.7181 inches. Okay? So then if you, in essence, what I'm telling you is make the model. Sometimes then I will do this. I'll make my bounding box of what I've been given for the size of the project. And then I set that as my bounding box. And I know now that model needs to fit within that bounding box, because this is my measurements that I have for the project. Okay? And then if you're going to use the floor grid, then what you're going to want to start to do, all right, is instead of doing something like this, you can see how the floor grid's not perfectly lined up with the cube in every way, right? If you come here to draw, okay, you can do a snap to all, snap to axis, or snap to mesh, right? So if I do a snap to mesh, it readjusts the floor grid to match the model now. Okay? Oh man, I wish it'd be an AI. It'd be amazing. Okay, so then if you have the cube set to the right side, you snap this floor grid, it's snapping now to the size of this cube that I placed. So it's going to the length, right, is what it's going to do. It's not going to shrink the floor grid. So this proportion's right, which means all these other proportions are going to be correct. Once I have the one proportion correct, the rest are going to fall into place. Right, so now you can see I've got this model. Okay, and so the next thing that I'm going to do with this is, since I know the ultimate range, in fact, let's do this. Let's use a bounding box of this dropship, okay, to help me out. And I can always use this bounding box to look back at and say, okay, I'm making sure I've got the range that I need within the bounding box. So let's now do what I already showed you. Let's actually project the images, okay? And what I'm looking for is, do I see everything I need to see in the image? So you can see right here, this needs to come out a little bit more, right? This part. So I'm going to just pull, right? I want to pull out this part a little bit, right? In this cube, right? I want to have the ability to change this a little, okay? So I need a little bit more range here, okay? So I'm going to say, all right, the projection, okay, is in here, right? We're projecting this. Okay, so I need a little bit more this direction. I'm going to get a little bit more this way, right? So you can see that image. I kind of cropped a little too much, I think. Okay, And then on the bottom, I want to see, okay, does my model go? Yeah, my model goes all the way to there. My model's going all the way to there. Okay, and then now the next thing that I want to do is, okay, so it looks like I need to shrink this cube a little bit. So there is the top. I'd say right about there is the top. And then we need a little bit more here for the landing gear. Okay, and then now that's pretty good right here, right? That's right at the point end of the cannon. We're good there. Let's take a look at this now. Right, so let's readjust the width of this. Let me unmask this. Let's get the width. So the furthest out point of this is obviously these wings. So what I've now done is I've used the images as even creating a bounding box for me, right? And then again, coming back to here, if I want to do this, okay, I can see that, okay, I got the whole image, got the whole image, got the whole image. So I now know, okay, that what's going on? How are you? Welcome. That this is all set now. I've got now a bounding box for this. So let me bring back the projection out of here. Okay, and then now this subtool. Okay, I'm going to rename drop ship box MV01 because I'm going to start saving out iterations. Okay. And I know I'm a big folder guy, so I'm going to start making a folder right out the gate. I'm going to make a folder and call this drop ship concept. Okay. So now that we have this, right? I want this structure right out the gate if I can. It's a good question. How long would this take me? That's a tough question because we're doing it in a stream and I'm doing a lot of talking and showing you guys stuff and explaining things. So it's going to take pretty long if I was going to try and do this all, right? But if I was just sitting there going at it and then doing this, and let's say let's say we do 8 hours a day, okay? I can go from past pieces, like when I did some Star Wars stuff. You know, you can calculate it down to, let's say 10 days, 8 hours a day. So 80 hours. That would probably be the high number, would be 80. And then I could probably get down to 50 hours. I'd say my range would be 50 to 80 hours to do something like this. That's including getting all the details and everything, and to the point where like, okay, it looks sweet. I'm so happy with it. Okay. So to your question, that would be the ballpark range I'd give you. I know 30 hours is a big gap, but it really comes down to sometimes if I get in a big time groove, I start moving pretty fast. I could say this, let me show you one as an example. When I made this one, right? When I did this ship, which I made for Disney, I would say this took me about 60 hours to do the whole thing. So that's an example. Here's a live example, I would say. Okay. But that was me just straight working on it, not talking. Well, let's be honest. Sometimes I might have been talking to myself when the music's playing or singing along with a song, because I can't have complete silence when I work. Okay. So that last one, because I was standing over past my microphone, that ship I just showed you guys was about 60 hours. It took me to do that one. So that's why I'm saying there's a range for me, 50 to 80. Okay. So I also would break it down to if I was working 8 hours a day as an artist, which I can't do. I would say probably this should take me no more than 2 weeks to do. Okay. All right. All right. So now this is just a little bounding box thing for me that I can now just use as, in essence, a guide. And the other thing that does for me, as I'm sure all you know that are ZBrush users, when you're saving tools, the first subtool is always being renamed to the saved file. So I'm using this as two things. I'm using it as a bounding box, and also I'm using it as a little dummy in essence. Okay. The last thing I want to talk about for a bounding box, the easiest thing really do, people, is to come to this plugin, and this plugin can just create a bounding box based upon the measurements you put here. Like, that's really the best way to make a bounding box. Like, if you have something that's with a specific size that this needs to be, you come into this plugin and you set the size you want, and then you just hit new bounding box, and then ZBrush will make a cube rectangular shape for you right here with the size of that bounding box, and then that's it. That's the best way to do it, honestly. Okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is start looking at this, and let's bring in some more images for referencing. So I got these blueprint images. Let's just bring in some other images for me right now that I'm going to bring in. This, obviously, this thing's been done a lot, okay? This is a popular ship. So there's even model already that you guys all could buy. So I'm going to use some of those even existing model pieces. Just so I like to have images floating around in here, and I can see as I'm working here, right? So I've got this image, so I'm going to add this to my spotlight. So I'm selecting the image, and I'm clicking add to spotlight right here. So again, I'll put on my magnifier right there. That'll plop the image into place. There's a cool 3/4 view. Let's plop that one in. Okay, that's a pretty good, almost profile. Okay, that's a pretty good front view. Right? That's a pretty good over time. And then this is the bottom. Okay? And so now that I have these images in here, I can rearrange them. Okay? And obviously, if I wasn't dropping the resolution of my monitor for the purpose of the stream, I would have way more room than we have right now. Okay? Like, I'm broadcasting right at 1080p, so I've set my monitor to 1920 by 1080, which is always fun to work in this resolution. Okay, I would definitely not work in this resolution usually. So the reason why I like this is then I can grab these images. I'm going to put the opacity up all the way of these images. And then now I can just place these somewhere else, right? Wherever I want. And because my resolution's so small, I'm not going to have a lot of space here, right? And for those that have watched my stream before, you've seen this before, I know. But for me, I'm just looking at what you guys are seeing. I just want something here as now just giving me a little bit of a guide to start blocking out this ship. There's something, again, I'm going to do something a little more, I'm inspired by it, okay? Because the blueprints are very good, perfect for me for lining things up. But sometimes I still want to see, what does this ship actually really look like? My eye can catch different things in like the completed reference model of the ship, obviously. All right, so I'm going to start with breaking this down and go, this is the tough part, I think, about anything with hard surfaces. Where do I go? Like, where do I begin? Right? And this is not organic, where we can use references of, okay, the eyes across a face have a certain number of eyes, i.e. there's 3 here, there's 5 across the face. You gotta turn them, and then it's top of the bone to the down the body. Okay? So that's where you want to go. Okay, with this. And to answer your question, you can crop images in Spotlight. Yes. But not the same way that we were doing. Okay? So to do that, like for example, let's do this image. Okay, so you're aware of this. I'm going to switch my color to black. So I'm hitting the V key, as you guys can see in my little pop-up. You can see the V key I keep hitting switches the colors. Right? I'm actually going to even switch to the paint brush itself. So I'm painting. And then I'm going to now, this is called edit spotlight mode. So when you see this big dial, this is editing the images. And what I can actually do, in essence, is more of like, instead of a crop, it's more like a masking. Okay, so I can select the actual paintbrush in Spotlight. And because I've got pure black, you can see I can actually mask out and, as a way, images. Right, and if I go with probably grab an alpha that is a little bit stronger. What I mean by that, there's no roll off. So you can see you can really, like, I don't need all this starriness that's in the image. As an example, I only need, all I want to look at is the model. So this is how you could crop out parts of the image that you don't want. And again, the key part here is using pure black, right? That's the key part. You guys even can, if you hold down Control and click and drag, see, I can get to the point where letting ZBrush get rid of most of that starry night. Beautiful, just beautiful starry night. So you can hold Control and click and drag, and it's looking for commonality in the hue and everything, and that's how we're getting rid of that, right? And then when you're done, you just turn this paintbrush off, right? You click here again, and now you can click on the image, position this one I want. I have even less room because of my graphics here for you guys, right? So there you go, to answer your question. And then I would put it back to white, so I'm looking at my model white again. Okay. Unfortunately, Matt, I can't really discuss any future developments. Okay, there you go. So now, for me, obviously, I start breaking down this and look at volumes. Okay, I'm looking at, okay, there's definitely a large volume here, the big volume here, and then you've got, obviously, in the back, right? So I can use this now as a volume controller. Okay, so, and then the next thing I start to do is how I start looking at this in pieces. Okay, so I'm going to first get this shape right here. Just get this general piece right here right now, real quick. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to duplicate this. Okay, we'll make sure that's in the folder. I'm going to rename this as concept. Okay, and then now I'm going to turn this and start changing this a little bit. Okay, what I like to do is I like to sketch inside of ZBrush with Dynamesh, which really Dynamesh, that's its main purpose and what it's built for is I don't know where I'm going or what I'm going to do with this piece. Okay, so I'm going to say, all right, I need to start getting some kind of volume here, right, and start working on this. So I'm going to turn on Dynamesh for this. And in fact, I prefer to go down with the lower resolution. Okay, so I'm going to start really low just to see what we got here for resolution. And now I definitely don't need the bounding box cube on anymore. Okay, I'm going to say that's not bad. That's a pretty good resolution. I don't need anything crazy. It's 13,000 polygons. It's in fact better in some cases. So if you want to go a little bit more, I would say go ahead and go a little bit more when you're doing this. But don't go too high. Okay, so I wouldn't go too high. Like, this is probably the max I would go. This is pretty high. Okay, and it's because I want to be quick with this. So I want to start now saying, okay, this is going to represent now this piece in here, right? That's what I want to start having it kind of to represent. So I just want to use this as a volume now. So I'm going to switch to my clipping curve, and I'm going to use my blueprint and say, okay, the line needs to go right about there. We'll re-Dynamesh, okay, and then the front of it goes right there, so we'll re-Dynamesh that, okay, and now the side got a little bit of a bend to this, so I'm going to turn on my symmetry. Hey, John, how are you? Okay, and then now I'm just going to follow that line, tapping the Alt key, where maybe I need to adjust that line a little bit more, and then clip that, re-Dynamesh that, okay, and then now I'm going to come across here to start getting that, right? Just get that general shape. And this is a key word, people, general shape. Don't go crazy in this stage. It's just about staying and getting the overall shape, right? And so now I have this, okay? And then this is why I have these other images. When you're looking at the blueprint, it is somewhat difficult to see this main piece that we're looking at, right? Because if you really look at it, it's this that's making that volume I just made. It's not this, it's not this, right? Looking at the blueprints, I can now relate and go, okay, this part right here is actually what I'm making now looking at the blueprints, right? So then all I got to do is, well, it's actually flat across the top here, flat across the top there, re-Dynamesh, right? And so now I've got that general piece here. And then my next thing is going to be, we now need to get a little bit of that roundness that's in here, just a little bit. And again, I'm not going to try and be perfect here, people. I am just trying to get a very quick shape here. Okay, and I don't like that one. I'm going to go at this one more time. Hair. Happy little tree. Yeah, that's better. Okay, I'm going to do this. And in fact, this is looking like it's dead center, like the bottom. Like if I'm looking at the bottom, I'm looking at the top. It's the same, right? So then I can come in here and say, let's take a look at that bottom. And that angles are the same top and bottom. So in essence, this piece right here is symmetrical from the top to the bottom. Okay? So, and again, this is why I like having the blueprints and I like having some good reference images. Okay? Hold on, I'm just seeing a question. Is it possible to add multiple perspective viewport code-wise in ZBrush or just decision-wise? Not right. Well, I can't say for code-wise, but also you got to remember ZBrush is not using a video card. So we are constantly having to render what you guys are looking at. Okay, so that's part of the reason why ZBrush Foundation didn't have multiple views. Because then if you're not using, we had another view and you're not using it, we still got to render all that. Guys, even when you're doing this with your cursor, we're having to re-render stuff. Okay, so there is things that we have where we can do split screens and stuff like that. But right now, no. Okay. And I can't say what the future is going to hold for you guys. Okay. So then there you go. And now I'm going to make this a little bit easier on me. Since I already have this done, and since I can see it's pretty much symmetrical, I'm going to use mirror and weld to help me out and then just give me that symmetry. So I'm going to go to modify topology, and over here in the mirror and weld, I'm going to change this to Y. Why, you ask? Because it's the Y. Okay. And what I'm also going to do, I know this piece is sitting somewhere else in the world. I'm going to turn on my local symmetry. That way, when I click my mirror and weld, okay, that I know I'm going to get the mirror and weld across. And then this is saying, hey, are you aware of that your elevation of your grid is sitting at the default -1, which so you know, when it's sitting at that -1, we are always going to snap the floor grid to its lowest hanging subtool. Okay, so it's asking me, do you want to proceed? And I say yes, and then there you go. Right, and then so now I have this piece a little bit, and in fact, I'm going to even go ahead and use circle a little bit, and then just even round out this part. I want to round this part out a little bit more too. Right, I'm going to turn off symmetry this time. I don't want symmetry on. Just give me a little bit more rounding out here. Like something like that. Right? And then I'm re-dynamesh. And then this time I'm going to turn off local symmetry. And I'm going to go across the X. Right? And then give me that. Okay? And then you can see because of what I did here, I made this issue. It's really not that big of a deal. Okay? I'm just going to stretch this just further across. Make sure that green line, it's past there. Okay? And then mirror and weld that over. Right? And then there you go. Now we're set. Okay? And then you can see right now the image itself. From this, I can see this direction. The image isn't quite right, so I'm going to go adjust that. Front, back. And I'm going to need to adjust the offset a little bit this direction. Just a little bit. There. That's a little bit better. There, that's better. Now, there you have it. So I've got now this base piece. Okay? And now I'm going to continue this process of quickly going through this and going, okay, what do I want to move on next, right? That's a pretty large volume from the top and from the front, right? So let's move on. I'm going to move on to the cockpit because this is going to help me establish the in essence, the length for many other things, i.e. this part, which is this part right here, right? And then you have, obviously, for those that know the movie and know the ship, this all opens up, right? So I need to get all that correct, right? That sizing down. So I'm going to start with the cockpit now. That's pretty much a cube. That's pretty much what it is. It's a cube, right? So what I like to do is this. I like to turn on the groups options here. Hold on. I want to make sure that I'm not missing some. Sorry about this. I have a call coming in that is from somebody. I want to make sure they're okay. I want to make sure it's not an emergency that's coming through for me. Okay. So I like to turn on this groups option when I'm going to do this workflow. okay? Because this is going to be why I like to turn on this groups option. So I've got this piece. What I like to do is switch to my gizmo. Okay, I'm just going to center this. I'm going to use that little bing finder, right? Bing finder icon. And then I'm going to hold the control key and then just make a copy of this. Okay, and then now this piece is going to become the piece I'm going to start using for my cockpit. Okay, so I'm going to say, all right, this now needs to be, let's turn symmetry on from top view. Right, let's go back to clipping curve, and I'm going to clip this here. Right, get that width a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going to say, all right, now I want to even adjust this a little bit more. Looks like this image also needs just a little tweak. Okay, so I'm going to also adjust this horizontally a little bit. Something a little bit more like that. There we go. Okay, and then now I need to say cut across this direction. Let's re-Dynamesh. Okay, and now here's the thing. When I go re-Dynamesh this, let's turn off the floor grid. Let's turn this off right now. Because I did a duplicate, right? If I re-Dynamesh now, yeah, I'm getting the new topology. But you can see these are both the same color. So if I was doing this, right, which that's what the cockpit should be doing on this ship, and I do this, we have now welded everything here. I don't want that. I want to stay kind of in a non-destructive workflow so I can continue to shape these pieces up a little bit as I'm working and going along here, okay? Because I can already see one thing that I'm going to change in this big piece already, okay? So what I'm going to do is before I do any of this, right, I'm going to make one of these have a new polygroup, right? And because when we do a duplication, you'll notice obviously this bigger piece got masked off. So I'm going to use it to my benefit here, all right? And then this, right, is not masked off, so it allows me to do all this. So what I'm going to do is Control W so that this becomes its own polygroup. And then now I can just remask by holding Control and tapping on the red. And then see now this is masked off once again, which is going to allow me now, if I turn my floor grid on, I can now say, okay, from that view, this is starting to shape a little bit better. So maybe I want to put a little bit of this in. And I can't stress this enough, people. Do not get too attached to being exact, right? Just this is, in essence, a concepting, figuring out stage, right? If you want to get some general in there, right? And then re-Dynamesh. Now, because I re-Dynamesh, this polygroup and this polygroup being separate, if I now do this, which is clearly what I'm going to need to do, especially when we turn this on, right? I'm going to clearly need to have that intersecting, okay, with the rest of this, okay? So I'm going to say I'm going to probably live right about there with this. And then now I'm going to mask off the top part of this and just stretch this down to where it needs to be down here. Okay? And then now when I re-Dynamesh, you'll notice these do not weld. So let's turn off our floor grid. Okay? And you can see these are being maintained as separate pieces. So at any point in time, once again, I can hold Control and tap on the red, and you'll see I'm not worried about anything. So I like to work this way, especially for things like hard surface, so that because as I'm working along here, i.e., okay, and let's turn these images back on too. From above, you look, see the clipping I did from the one angle? I lost some of that shape, right? So now I can say, okay, well, boom, we'll get the green matte, right? So the green's available, the red's masked, okay? I'm going to center this with no symmetry on, which is holding the Alt key and resetting, making sure my gizmo's sitting perfectly aligned in the world, since that's what I'm building this off of right now anyways, okay? So now I'm going to click this gear and use one of my favorite deformers, which is the deformer, all right? So I'm going to click on that, and then now we've got a deformer that pops up, okay? Ibrahim, yeah, I'll put the request in for you. So you want one surface to snap directly to another surface. Like if I wanted this cube's bottom to snap to the top of this, that's what you're looking for, I'm assuming, yes? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is these dots are important to me. These are the number of lattice points, in essence, that I can move around. Hi, Alex from Russia. Wow, thanks for coming in. So what I'm going to do is, well, since this is symmetrical right now, I'm going to pull on this red cone and go all the way out. So now you can see all the white dots disappear here because this is symmetrical. So what this gives me the ability of, people, is this has got 360 degrees of symmetry because the deformer is dependent upon the actual where the gizmo is sitting in space, right? So then I'm going to say, give me a couple more points, maybe there. And now I'm going to say, okay, this middle section here, holding control, but now just holding only the Alt key. Again, I'm only holding the Alt key and letting go. All the other dots are getting masked, and then now only these three are available. This is now going to allow me to pull on this, right? And you can see it's doing it to both sides because I have symmetry on, right? And so then this is why I also then said, okay, I need this one. Okay, and I'm going to pull on that. And then I need this one, pull on that, just to get that shape back that I originally had in there. And then I can re-Dynamesh, and then there you go, right? And this is, again, why I'm working this way. I want to have this ability to just only edit that piece. And then again, now this is going to need some editing to it as well. So I can do stuff like this. Just push that a little bit more forward, okay? And then now let's go back to my curved clipping brush. And let's go at this, start making this just have that shape of the cockpit that I want. And then I'll re-Dynamesh that. Okay, I want that. And then now you can see we are starting to get a little bit more angle. So now if you look from the front view, right? This right here, we need to get that shape in there. Okay, here's another thing that might be very helpful for you all to do is if you go in a draw palette. Once again, there are two sliders here that you guys have. You have the opacity control of the image, but you also have the opacity control of the image. And sometimes, especially when I'm doing something like this right here, enhance factor, is actually the mesh. Sometimes I like to crank this all the way up, and literally the only thing now I'm seeing is the outline of my mesh, right? So I can now really see where these lines are, okay? And then once again, I'm going to switch to Gizmo. Okay, switch back out just to do a quick mask. And then now I'm looking at this and saying, okay, this needs an angle this direction, right? So once again, we'll turn symmetry on. Okay, and then I need to start giving that an angle as well. Okay, and you can see, this is where you got to be careful. There is a taper that's actually happening here a little bit, right? So I'm just going to mess with the taper a little bit. So I'm going to say, let's come through here and just start getting that taper to come a little bit more. All right. And then let's go a little bit more extreme from this angle. Just start getting a little bit more of that taper. And then re-Dynamesh. And then there you go. Right? So now I've got that general shape there. I got this general shape. We're moving along. Okay. Here's something else that I'm going to now do. Instead of duplicating like we did in the first time where I just duplicated the whole mesh, I am a big component and a big fan of taking one of these pieces, i.e. right now you can see the cockpit part, okay? And then obviously this needs a round, right? It needs roundness, right? And you can see from this image here, their rounding is a little different than the original piece, right? Because this is the original. See, it's pretty round in the original, almost spherical-like, right? It's got a pretty spherical shape in the original piece, right? And I would say in this particular model kit, which was really well done, I think it's tapering out just a little bit for me. It's probably accurate. It's probably right. It's just my eye. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy this, okay, the cockpit part only. And that's happening because, again, this part was masked off and this part's available to me. So when I do this, hold control and click on an arrow, the only thing I get is this piece. This piece now doesn't get copied. And then the next thing I'm going to do is say, let's replace this now. Okay, so I'm going to tell ZBrush, instead of replacing the way we were, I'm going to go to the gear here, and then there's a spherical shape right there. Okay, and then so when I click on this, we swap out that mesh, right? And then now I've got a rounded, right, sphere shape that I can resize down, position this where it needs to be. Let's say from above, we'll go right around in that world. Okay, and then from the side, it needs to be right here. And then looking at it, it definitely needs to taper a little bit, right? And then if you look, it's almost like there's two spheres here. Okay, so I'm gonna put that in. So I'm gonna redynamesh. Okay, and then once again, I'm going to just only have that, and let's just do this. Okay, and then I'm going to switch to move, infinite depth now. Click on that, and I'll go with a bigger brush size right here. And let me just start moving this shape to match a little bit more to what I see in the image. Just a tad bit more like that. And then now redynamesh. Right? So now I have this piece. Okay, doing this. Okay, and then now this is where in Dynamesh resolution, I might turn this little icon on now, right? And what this is going to do for me is do different things when we're redynameshing, okay, in here. And also, because I'm using Spotlight, I did not turn off this projection, right? So if I'm going to use Spotlight as a reference imaging, I want to make sure that projection spotlight is off, okay? That way I can use any of the sculpting brushes to do anything, right? So that way when I wanted to smooth this, see it'll actually smooth now, or smooth this, okay? And then redynamesh things how I want to redynamesh them, right? So smooth things out, okay? And then you notice, see how more dense this got? That's because now I've turned this to an open circle. So in this case, I want my resolution of Dynamesh to be actually open circle because I'm going to be making meshes that are all different sizes here. Okay? So I want this ability. Okay? And so now that we have this, it looks like we need putting our floor grid back on. Let's center, let's control click on this. Reposition. Click this, copy that. Switching to a spherical shape again, and I'm actually, just to make things better, I'm going to up the resolution of the sphere as well, just so when it gets Dynamesh it's already a little bit more smooth. And then now I just need to size this down, fits right about there, right? And see, it's not sitting in the middle. Okay, so I didn't get it in the middle because my gizmo wasn't sitting in the middle of the world. So I'm going to put this mesh back to the center of the world. Just with the gizmo, I'm going to hit center. And then I'm going to hit this home button in the gizmo. And now this is sitting, right, back at the center of the world. Right, so this is what I can do for this. And then now move this back over here. Move this where I want to do. Now, this happened, okay, because I was not paying attention when I made my copy. Okay, so when I made this copy, I wasn't paying attention. So when you are going to copy something, let me go backwards now. Okay, so you can clearly see where that sphere ended up. It ended up because look where my gizmo's sitting in space. So how this replacement thing's happening when we're using this icon with these, we're just looking actually where this is. Like I can move this way over here, like this, nowhere near the mesh. And when I click on this and click the sphere, see where the sphere gets made? It gets made where the gizmo is. The mesh is irrelevant. The mesh is only going to be just deleted anyways and replaced. Okay? So then the key would be here would be centering this, right? Based upon this. And then now dropping in that spherical shape. And then this is more what we'd want. And then now I would do the lining up of, the lining up of pieces. And then this is not a perfect sphere either. So I'm going to do this. fact, actually, we will do this, and then now do a little bit of the stretch there. And say, and then the image here. Okay, and then let me get it lined up with that image a little bit better and do something like this. And then there we go. And then when I re-Dynamesh, once again, this is staying separate from everything else. Okay, and then of course you always got mirror and weld to do things for you, right? Right, so don't forget that mirror and weld can also be used to re-symmetry something, of course, as well, right? And then of course this is where you got to start looking at images and seeing, is this really what this is looking like now? So then I look at this, what's it really look like from the bottom, right? And then this is stuff that I'm just trying to map out. Okay, that's my goal right here, right now, is I'm just trying to map out this ship. Okay, I'm not trying to do all these crazy details yet. So let me just continue moving along. I'm going to go now, what's my next part of the ship? So I got this, this, and this. Okay, so this is not correct down here. This part's not correct, right? Because we know this is going to get rounded a little bit. So I'll round that out a little bit just for peace of mind. Turn some symmetry on. And then this starts rounding here, right? So start giving a little bit of roundness in there. Something a little bit more like that. Great. Okay. And then now let's continue on. Let's start getting more volume of this. Let's turn this floor grid on. Let's do this now, this piece. Okay, this portion of our model. So I'm going to go again and say we can stay, and you notice we're staying in one subtool right now. So I can say, let's go ahead and center this. Let's copy this whole thing again. And then let's go ahead and use this cube. Okay, and another reason why I like this technique is every time you're making a new mesh this way, you're getting automatically a new polygroup as well, right? So this yellow polygroup's automatically being given to me. Okay. I see a question coming through. So the sub projection in Dynamesh is for when you turn the projection option on. This is controlling how much. We added this when people wanted to make hard surface inside of ZBrush with Dynamesh. And instead of having to crank up your resolution, you actually can have a lot lower resolution and maintain the volume of the mesh, right? So as an example, let's do it. Let's go on this tangent real quick since we're talking about this, okay? So this back here, right? If I take this cube, okay, and let's just turn everything off so you guys can see what we're doing here. Okay, now if I turn this into a Dynamesh, right? Keeping it in a cube shape is dependent upon the resolution, obviously, right? So the lower I go, the less and less it's really going to maintain like the cube shape, right? So you can see it's still a cube, but not completely refined cube, right? So this is then looking at it here. This is resolution 16. Okay, so let's undo. This is resolution 128. Okay, so this is almost 100,000 polygons. Okay, and then let's go back and let's put it back at like 16. And let's see. Okay, and this is 1,500. That's a big swing, people. This is 1,500 polygons. This is 100,000 polygons. So what's happening, what I want, is I want this kind of more look of a cube, but more towards this polygon count. So this is where the projection now comes into play. If you guys turn on the project, excuse me, in Dynamesh, and I'm going to turn off the blur so there's no blur, then this slider is now being appreciated. So when I click Dynamesh, okay, it's doing this. So see, I got 107,000 polygons at 128, but you can see, can you guys tell me which one's the Dynamesh and which one's not the Dynamesh? You can't. Okay, so what that means, if I actually drop this down, let's put it at the 16 and then re-Dynamesh, look at that. That's actually a Dynamesh now. It's in Dynamesh mode right now. And it looks exactly like the cube, but what we're doing is only adding triangulation at the sharp, sharp, sharp cornered edges. So you can see all this is being maintained as larger polygons. So now I'm only sitting at 27,000 polygons, but I now have a perfect cube still in Dynamesh mode. But I don't have to have 100,000 polygons to keep that cube. Okay? Does that make sense? Hopefully that answers your question. And then to answer your other question, why I don't tend to necessarily always start in low polygon is because I'm trying to first just get the proportions and the sizes right. Okay? And if you're starting low polygon, you're now limited to the exact topology. You got to be slicing and cutting in places to start getting shapes to look the way they are. And I want to work fast. So I don't want to be sitting there trying to figuring out, oh, I got to add an edge loop here, and then I got an edge loop here, and then I need an edge loop here and here. Okay, now I got to extrude or Q mesh out, and then shrink it, and then shrink it, right? Where if I'm just quickly getting some shapes here, I'm going to get the general shape of this ship. And again, that is my goal here, is get this general shapes. Because now I can just stretch this out to meet out here, stretch this. And I'm not worried about topology at all, right? If you're going to go low polygon, then you got to be worried about the topology. Okay? Whoops. Right? And I don't want to worry about the topology right now. I just want to get my general shape of this. Okay? And say, whoops. Say, okay, I need this right about there. Okay? And then even watch this. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and click this. And I can use now this and say, okay, it goes that low. Right? And then I'm going to center this and get about a little bit wider there. Okay, good, good, good. All right, that looks good. All right, perfect there. Now I'm going to start getting the shape real quick. And then this is exactly where I mean. To your question, why did I not just start low polygon? Okay, this is why. I now need to just quickly get this tapering here and some roundness there. I'm not trying to get perfect. Okay, because I'm concepting, designing right now. So I'm just quickly going to just, okay, there needs to be this angle. Then we need this angle here. Okay, and then re-dynamesh that. And I forgot to put my symmetry on, so I'm going to mirror and weld across that X there too. Right, so getting that set. Okay, now I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to now clip rectangular, and let's clip out this portion right here. Right here, and in fact, I'm going to hold the Alt key, clip that out. Let's go more like right there. But you see I'm clipping everything, hence why, boom, separate pieces. Okay? And again, this is just a preference, okay? If you want to start low polygon, I say absolutely, go low polygon. I don't, because I have found for me that I get trapped in a circular down the rabbit hole with Alice, where I'm figuring out too much that I shouldn't be trying to figure out. I'm just trying to make sure, what's the width of this? Am I getting this correct? Right? And don't get distracted by this kind of stuff angle in here, right? I'm making this piece right now. Right? So you see it does have a little bit of tapering there. So from the top view, once again, I just want to look at the yellow. And let's mask off the back of this now. And we'll just stretch this out to meet there. Okay? And then now I'm going to say, let's now cut it. Whoops. We don't want to use this one. I'm going to use, again, my clip curve. Clip this in there. Right? And once again, I didn't turn symmetry on. No biggie, though. Okay? And then re-dynamesh that. Okay? And let's go ahead and once again do a little quick tweaking again of this. Again, I'm doing a lot of masking off so that I can do this. Okay? And then now I'm just going to go straight to my handy dandy deformer. Okay, and I'm going to say, all right, I don't need as many this way. I'll need a couple more this way. So let me sit right about there. Okay, we'll work symmetrically. And then now I want to move these points out to meet that. Perfecto. And let's move this point out to meet there. Okay. And then now I want these 2 points, this point right here. Let's start moving that out more. Give me that line. And then redynamesh. And then there you go. Right? And then this has also got this little tapering right in here as well. Right? So that's going to be important for me to establish that as well. Okay? And so we can go about this 2 ways. Okay? Instead of trying to make this yellow piece fit now that front view, okay, I could, why don't I just duplicate now that yellow piece, right? And then now just use this part to start shaping that. So front, more the front will do this. And then it's doing a little taper like that. Something like this. Okay, that looks good. And then I don't need all of this. I just need up to a certain point. That's a little too far. Right about in there. Okay, and then now, these are the same polygroups, right? So when I redynamesh, ZBrush just fixed those 2 pieces. So there. I just got that shape real quickly. Just get that general shape again in there, right? And this is all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to get my general, in essence, what I end up doing in this workflow, I'm using my own model as a reference for when I go now and start building the really cool looking pieces. Okay? So, and I do a combination, in all fairness, this with even low polygon. Okay? All right, John, have a good one. So again, let's just continue this journey. Okay, I'm going to now, let's do this. Let's copy this. All right, I want that centered so it's sitting at the center. We're going to need a cube for this. All right, and I'm going to redynamesh this so it also redynameshes this cube. And let's start looking at this now. And looking at this a little different. I'm looking at my reference images as well and seeing what we have here. Right, and then now let's start mapping this one out. So control clicking, so that's masked off. Definitely going to work in symmetry for this. And I'm going to clip through here to give me that. And we need to clip, I'm going to clip across here to give me that. Come to this view, right? Clearly need to be clipped around here on the bottom, right? And then this has got to be clipped minimum across the top like this. Okay, so that starts to give me that volume. And then I'm going to actually mask off this, and let's just go ahead and stretch this all the way out to here. Okay, that way I can get this line that's in here a little bit. Again, I'm tapping on the Alt key, and then I double tap to make a harsh, so I can kind of get that shape that I want. And sometimes I like to flip this. I did this a lot when I drew as well. I like to draw on a board. Was my like go-to. Doing something like this. And you see how this is happening? It's because the topology I have is not very good. This is why I'm dynameshing to do this, because I need topology that actually can take on this profile. Right? See, like that. Okay, and then so redynamesh. So that gives me this. I now need to make this portion. Right, so from top view, okay, there needs to be this now, which is this right here, right? This part. And again, looking at the imagery, it doesn't come out as far as this, right? And it's in essence about the continuation of this piece right here, right? So really, because this is where they open up, okay? You need a hug, air hug, air hug. Okay. How would I do high poly? There's many ways. I'll show you. I'll show you with one of the pieces how I could even start here. In fact, here I'll show you how I can start. You don't even need to get high polygon count if you want, right? Because where I'm going with this, right, is I'm just kind of quickly mapping out pieces, and then yeah, I'm going to switch at some point here, okay, to get something better, right? But we're talking a lot right now, and you know how I like to talk. So as an example, let me just duplicate this, okay? And let's just take only the blue back part that I just made, all right? And let me show you, give you a little quick understanding of where I'm going with this. Okay, so now we got this. I'm going to delete everything else just so we can focus on this piece. So what we have here is this piece, right? And you want to start getting high polygon count, or maybe you even want Z modeler. So it's easy to rebuild this from a six-sided cube. This is why I'm doing this. I know my proportion here is correct. I know the length is correct. I know the width is correct. I know all of this is correct because I took the time to really just quickly map it out. And once again, people, what I'm showing you right now, I would probably do this in probably like 30 minutes to maybe an hour. Like I would have been done a long time ago and moving into this next stage, which this next stage is now what I like to call, in essence, cleaning up the mesh, right? And making it really look hard surface. So there's many now paths you could go down, okay? I.e., if I just want to stay in Dynamesh mode and start making it clean, you could go that path. If I want to know, I want to clean it up, so I want a very low polygon, I could just grab a cube and copy this. Or there's also C, where I can just take this existing one and literally not change any of the topology and make it look really harsh, sharp. All right? And so what I mean by that is this, right? I can start doing something like, okay, let's start evaluating this. And let's now actually start going down here to our polygroups and use our polygroups by normals. See, with one click of the button, I just made a polygroup there, polygroup there, polygroup there, and so forth and so on, right? With one click of the button. That's all I did, right? And what that is I've opened up to a stronger algorithm that so there's two ways that the normals are being analyzed. So that's what this open circle is. And the closed circle is just a different algorithms. There's two different algorithms. And depending on the mesh you're throwing at, one might work better than the other. So I like the open one, works really well. And so now what I have here is a mesh that's got polygrouped off. And so if I want to just turn this and make this look even more sharp, hard edge, all I have to do is now go to deformation and polish by groups, right? And then see, just like that, there. I've got a nice, crisp, harder surface, right? And then I can do this again as many times as I want. I can open this circle and make it be a lot stronger. And you can see how clean we're starting to get. And then now you can see there's two polygroups here. So I'm going to make this one and then polish that so we get that. And look, I didn't in essence change the topology. I'm still using the same topology, but look, it's still clean. This is clean, right? And then if you want to, right, then you start dividing. And when I divide, right, this is going to do certain things to the border edges, okay? So when I turn out a Dynamesh and I start divide here with smooth on, you can see it's automatically rounding and giving me a nice little rounded bevel. Okay, the problem I have is the Dynamesh, right, isn't the cleanest topology. So then this is where then I'm going to turn symmetry on. I'm going to go to our Z remesher, right? And I'm going to say, give me something that actually is like around 500 polygons. And then look at the polygroups and keep them. So keep them and use them as a guide and remesh this now. And look how low that is, right? And then now if I like turn on dynamic, so you can see how nice that looks. Right, so this is kind of why sometimes I won't start with low polygons, because I can always get back to it. And vice versa. If I start low, I can divide something up. I can do whatever I want, right? But this is in essence the workflow. But I first need to know, is this even correct? Like from all angles. This is where I think people get caught up in hard surface. They get focused so much like on the cockpit, making the cockpit perfect. I'm like, but did you even get the right width and right length, the right height, right, to the rest of this ship? So that's why I'm doing what I am doing here, right? I want to make sure I'm starting to get all this correct, right? And then for me, I'm just looking at these now in block chunks, right? So I got this piece. That looks good, right? And I know this I'm not even worried about because there's other things that are going to come in play here, right? So this is now coming all the way back there. See, it's in there. But I still have this to put in, right? So now I'm going to do this next. Okay, I'm going to do that big piece right there next. So looks like very cube shaped like me for me. So I'm going to do this, copy this, copy that, copy that. Had to do it, people. Had to do it. Okay, and then throw a cube on this. Let's go ahead and re-dynamesh this. And then now once again do this. Okay, and then this, as you can see, has a roundness to it as well. Okay, so you can see it's round right here, but not everywhere else. I can kind of see that as two pieces though, because you see there is a lip right in there. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to stick with, it's going to become two pieces. So I'm going to go from there, right? And then now I need to start just quickly clipping this piece up, getting the angles that I want for this. And again, this is just my preferred method of me starting to work this way. Right? And then re-dynamesh that. Okay? And then I would also say this needs a little bit of tapering through here, or a nice little bit more of like a bulge. Okay? And then so now I'm going to go back to my deformer. This is where I love using my deformer. And doing this, and then just give me that little bit of a bulge in there, or I don't even know what to call that. That little angle right in there, right? Give me a little bit of that. Okay? Because obviously these are the arms and everything, and then this is where the missiles are, and it does this kind of cool thing, like this, in the original one. Okay? So I'm looking at this and going, all right, let's see, I got about that. Let's see. Okay, that looks great about right there. Okay. And then from the top, it needs to have a little bit of an angle to it, right? So I'm going to turn my symmetry back on. And let's do a little bit of an angle there. And we are going to say, let's re-dynamesh that. Okay. Re-dynamesh that now. Now let's do this rounded part. So let's again do this. Let's copy this. Obviously, a sphere makes probably the best shape for what I want there. It's telling me to turn off symmetry. So I'm going to turn off symmetry. And let's make a sphere. Oh, big sphere. Big sphere. You're too kind. Love to adopt you. Javier, thank you. I appreciate it. You guys are too nice. That's very nice of you all to be very kind words. Okay, working on a human character, and my next character I'm thinking it's a creature, and the next one is a robot. What do you think? If this is bad or for me to get a job? No. No, that is a good way to Silent Moon to show a range. So if you guys you can do some creatures and some robots, it's good. But if you're not strong at one over the other, don't do it. Like if you're having a hard time making hard surface look hard surface and being right, then don't put that in your reel. Okay? I would not recommend that. But it doesn't hurt to have an organic and hard surface. Okay? All right, I'm just looking back at questions. So, all right, Silent Moon, that answers your question. Okay, so let's get this shape. Let's get this shape right. This is not right in here, so it definitely needs to be squashed a little bit. Something like more like this from this angle. And I'm going to move, let's see, I'm going to look at the positive side, this side of the world. And this has got to sit somewhere else. Right, so it's going to butt into this. So I got that angle right. And then now, this is actually over here, sitting here. So now let me clip it here. Clip that. And then now we need to also clip from here. So I'm going to clip from there to something like this. Start giving me that shape a little bit more. And then redynamesh. Okay. And again, I am not trying to be perfect. So don't get too worried if it's not like the perfect exact shape, right? And if you want to refine it, I can refine it a little bit, right? And then bring that down. And it's a little, I'd say it's a little bit high. Let's move that move infinite depth again. I'm going to bring that down a little bit. Through here, let's turn off the floor grid so I can have an eye on this a little bit better. Just doing some quick changes through here. I love the move infinite depth. Very handy brush. Getting across that whole depth. And then obviously I need to get rid of the rest of this, right? I don't need all of that. So I'm going to clip across there. And then let's clip across there. And then now redynamesh. Okay. It's good there. And in fact, let's clip also this part there. Okay, and then I don't need this little sliver down here. I'll clip that and then redynamesh. Okay, and so this is happening, this, where if you get any Swiss cheese, anything like that, it's from the mesh itself breaking one of the Dynamesh rules. Okay, so if you ever get Swiss cheese, you either made something where it's not watertight anymore, or you have one side of the surface and the other side of the surface meeting in the middle. Okay. Right, and I didn't do the other side, no biggie. I'm just going to mirror and weld this is across. Okay, and now I need this piece and this piece to start really shaping this up a little bit more so I can get this transition that's going to need to be happening. So I'm going to go with this next. Right, start building that. Once again, let's put that floor grid on. Okay, I'll just grab any one of them. It doesn't really matter what piece I grab to copy. Okay, and I'm going to position it in the middle. Let's go ahead. Cube seems to be the best shape to use for that right now. So we'll put that there. All right, that looks good. Let's redynamesh it so that I can get more density, right? Again, once again, I want some of that density. And then now let's just quickly refine, and I'm masking off once again. So the only thing that's being edited is the green portion, right? And then looking at this, right? And then here's the original, right? It lips over a little bit, right? It's got a little bit, it doesn't just stop, right? It's got a little bit of lipping over there. Okay, and then obviously you can see they did that in the model kit as well. Right? It's got a little bit of a hang over that. So I want to make sure I establish that for me. So this needs to come over that just a bit, right? And then this is where I've already got that happening, right? So if you look, I'm already over the purple part. This purple part is this part right here, right? So I now need to get this shape a little bit more, right? So let's go ahead and stretch this out a little bit so that I can now just clip to the angle that I want that to be there. Okay, per. Perfect. And then same thing again. Now let's do this. I'm going to stretch this out now to meet here because I didn't have that quite right. And then now it needs to be an angle like this. And then I need this to have an angle like this now. And then there you go. So there's that piece. That looks pretty good. All right. I would probably go get some other reference images. What this is right here is actually this part right here. Right? That's blending from where the missiles do this into the cockpit, right? So I'm going to keep this squared like this. So I'm going to mirror and weld this over once again. And so now we're starting again. You can see the shape. It's starting to come together, right? We're starting to get this drop ship look here. Okay, there's actually a website called Blueprints. There's an old website. You can get like there's planes and ships and everything on there, like cars. If you just Google search Blueprints, let me see if I can find it real quick. That's where I used to get a lot of stuff. I don't remember the exact name of it, but when I see it, I think it's myblueprints.org. Let me see. No, this isn't. No, that's not it. Here you go. Here it is. So here's a great site, especially if you guys are going to try and do anything vehicle-wise or something like what I'm doing. There's a great site for you. Okay, this site has a lot, like every view, it's got weapons, it's got vehicles, it's got ships, it's got helicopters. So there's a ton. This is a great site to go to. This is the one I used to go to a lot. Okay, great question. Good question. All right. Okay, so now that we got this, that looks good. That looks good. Let's get the transitional part piece now. That's going from obviously the missiles, right, into the cockpit. So let's get that piece in place. Okay, and once again, let me turn these on. I think this piece is a great example of really seeing what's going on. So I'm going to enlarge this a little bit more for me. This is kind of why I like to also have the images inside of ZBrush. Okay, so I see. So again, my only thing is, what is the best shape here that I should use? Is really what I'm trying to figure out. And I am not concerned with, again, I am not concerned with this cut lines like this and this kind of detailing. I am not concerned with that at this stage, okay? I'm just trying to get this to look more like what it looks like in the imagery. Right, so let's go ahead, and we need a piece of geometry to represent this. All right, so let's go. Why don't I just use, and this is another reason why I've been sticking with one subtool right now. This is making it easy for me to like just copy a piece, right? And then now I'm gonna say, I'll go cube for this as well. Okay, and it's almost sitting right where it needs to be. Okay, and I'm gonna re-dynamesh all of this once again, right? I think I turned off my Dynamesh. Okay, and then now this needs to go a certain distance, right? So based upon this blueprint, this is where it needs to stop, right there. Right, so once again, I want to work with the blue piece here. So I'm going to mask off everything else with the blue piece by holding Control and Gizmo and clicking on that. And now let's start shaping this a little bit more. Don't get too consumed with this, right? In this blueprint part, that's the red paint part. This should actually blend in, right? A little bit more with the exhaust system that's through here. Okay, so be careful. This is what I'm saying. Sometimes you got to be paying attention to what you're doing. That's the paint job right there that I'm seeing in here. So I'm not going to clip all the way to that line. I'm going to clip to about that line in here. And then I'm going to start just getting this shape here. So I'm going to turn on symmetry now. And let's, whoops, I don't have enough of the blue, so I'm going to stretch that out a little bit more. Okay. And then we also don't have enough this direction, right? So I'm going to stretch it again. So we're going to mask out everything there. Center without symmetry on. And I definitely need to stretch this all the way out to here. Something more like that. Okay. Then this gives me the freedom now. I do want to establish this angle on this now. Okay. This is going to help me with the other piece after. So I'm going to establish my angle that I kind of want this to be cut at. Okay, there you go. And so now we'll redynamesh that. And now from the front, oops, from the front view, okay, it needs to taper inward, right? So from here it's tapering, and then this needs to taper down into this cockpit portion. Okay, so then I'm going to do this. Okay, once again, and then we need a nice tapering happening here. Right, so I'm going to go clip and just slightly give that a tapering effect like that. And then look at this, see what we got there. Right, and then now I'm looking at this now as an example. This is a good image right here to give me a little bit more guidance of what's happening in here. Right, so you see there should be a gap between the cockpit and the exhaust system here. Okay, so I want to make sure that's happening. And then this tapering is even more extreme than looking at it from this image. So there's quite a bit more extreme to the taper. I'm looking at this relationship in here and then doing it again in here, right? Just looking at that relationship a little bit more. So I want to get that a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to actually, once again, deformer it. And let's just go no symmetry. I don't need this many points this way. Don't need that many this way. And I don't need any this way. And let's just add more of a taper to it. It needs to come way out, way more out like that. Right? And then now it needs to also sit a little bit higher. So we'll have that tapering up like this. Right? And then looking at that image, there needs to be a little bit more of a cut in there. So I am going to now say click accept, and I'm going to make another deformer, and I need a couple more points this direction, and I need to limit the movement here. So I'm going to take now these dots and start pulling this up a little bit, and then take these dots here and pull that up just a little bit. So I'm going to go right about there. Okay, and then here again, I'm going to turn this off so I can visually see what I'm doing here. Okay, looks good, looks good. So that taper does come a little bit more extreme. Okay, so then this might be the moment where I decide to take this piece and separate it. Okay, so this would be the one moment it's going to be easier, okay, to split this off, right? And then now this is going to be the ability to give me now transparency, right? And then now I can kind of see through things and play with, say, now I can see the taper through this. And now maybe this taper gets a little bit more extreme looking at the image. It's a little bit more like that. There. More in that realm, right? And you can see I've got the gap that we wanted in there, right? I would say the cockpit for me needs to be a little bit more wide. I got a little too happy, but I've got the good relationship in here. So I would probably just a little bit more in that world. Right? You see how this is starting to come together for me. Okay, and let me turn on my, let me turn on my floor grid again. Let me turn on my images. Right, and then now we're just continuing this process as we go along here, right? 5x5. Richard Thomas just reading your question. It's okay. We're working on it. We're getting somewhere with this model. It's been a slow process because the guy in the stream, aka me, is talking a lot, right? And so now I want to start getting these shapes, right, to help me proportionally get the volume, start getting that right. Okay, so that would be the next thing I'd start working on, which is this part. Right, I want to start working on those a little bit. So once again, I'm going to go back and stick with this concept. I'm going to copy this. Let's just put it right there. Bam, a cube. Seems to be my go-to for this project right now. Right, and then this needs to stretch out like all the way. So this is difficult to understand in the blueprint, right? You can see, what is this in here? Is that, so I need another image of this, right? Here's a pretty better one, right? So you can see this volume here is different, right? This portion is there, right? So the piece that I'm making right now ends right there and then goes to here and then all the way up to here, right? That's really where it's going. Okay, so that's, I'm double checking these kind of elements with multiple images, especially when we're lucky we got something like this that we're trying to make that already existed. It's good to do this. And so, okay, that's one sitting there. I'm going to mask off the top part so I can stretch this all the way to there. We'll redynamesh this. Again, control click on this wall gizmo, and then now let's just quickly start getting the general shape of this piece. Right, from all of our views. Something like that. And then there is a little bit of some movement this direction. Okay, good enough from that angle. Now let's go to the top. Okay, it's not wide enough. So let's center, and we need it a lot wider. I'm going to go more than what the images are. Okay, and then now I'm just going to do a quick cut to here, double tap Alt. Let's cut that piece out. Well, let's use symmetry. Would be beneficial to use some symmetry. Okay, and now from the top, there's this also now happening from here, right? And go straight across. And I'm going to go a little bit more harsh with this. So I'm going to come across here, double tap, go like that, redynamesh, and I turned off symmetry. So we're mirror weld that over. Starting to get that. Okay, let's look from this angle. Okay, so this, right, is the piece that we're working on. And when I say we, it's really me, I guess, right? So this needs to be having more of a roundness to it. Something more like in that range of things. Okay, and I definitely want that roundness. It looks like we need that roundness also on the bottom. Yeah. So in fact, let me look at this again. This has also got a little bit of an angle here too. Right? I'll tell you the best way of replicating things like this is buy the actual model kit. I'm not kidding. Like, buy the model kit and you will definitely take away so much from that model kit. Right? And in fact, I got a back view image here. Let's load a back view image. I think that'll be beneficial for me at this stage. So there's front back. I can click on this, and there is an image of the back of this. Right here. Yeah, so here's the back right here. Okay, so I'm going to crop this one. Let's fix this. So first of all, we need to rotate it. Okay, and then I need to adjust my image. And then there's the back. This'll be handy for us. And then you can see all the missiles too. Yeah. Ripley! Who didn't like Aliens? How great of a movie that was. And Alien, for that matter, was phenomenal. One of my all-time faves. Okay, so we're good. We're good. We need a little bit more this way. Good, 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 good. And then hit OK. And then now we've got this back piece. And now I need to size it down. Right, so I'm going to scale this way down. Way, way, way down. And I need to change the angle to be more flat. And I need a offset horizontal. Okay, so there you go. Now I've got a back view. So if I want to clip from this direction, I can clip from this direction. I'll be honest with you. The best way to get this shape, honestly, right out the gate, would not actually be using a cube. In fact, I'm going to do it. I'm going to show you something else that I actually like. Okay? I'm going to center this, and I'm going to switch to a cylinder instead. Okay? And now I've got this cylinder, and I'm just going to up the resolution there, and I'll up the resolution there. Okay? And I'm going to size this down to be probably about, let's say, that big. Okay? And then now I'm going to click this gear and use the extruder. And then this can instantly, see, give me that shape that I was looking for. Right? See? You're getting that already closer to what's there. Okay? So this has come in very handy for me. And then I can say, okay, accept. And I need a little bit more, so let's throw another extruder on it and go there. See? Boom. Just like that, I start having that shape already a lot better now. Right? And then I can go this direction as well. And then I can say accept. Accept that. Okay, and then this is making new polygroups. So because I'm using that groups option, what I want to make sure is that maintains one polygroup. Right? I want this to be maintained as one polygroup. Right? Stuff like that. And see, this makes more sense now. Okay? And then W, boom. Okay, we need more. Now again, this direction. So then now I need to go and redo those clipping. That clipping I was doing, right? Right, so let's clip this with symmetry on. And then now this clips in like so. And then this clips in like so. And then I'm going to make it go straight across. Like that. And then there. Now we've got that. And we need... Oh, I forgot about this portion right here, right? Well, it looks like just like them. I might add that. Okay, so we got this. So now I need this profile. To give me that. Right, and there's that piece. Much better. Okay, and then it's going to get cut down the middle too. Right, but before I do that, I'm going to create this little piece right here. So let's grab the pink that I have, copy that, and let's start again clipping this down to here, then to there, Okay, and then this makes a B line like so, right through there. I'm going to cut a little bit even more of this. Right? That gives me that shape. And now, do I want these two to weld together? This is an important stage, right? Because this pink is the same pink as this, right? So the easy thing to do if I don't is inverse the mask and then re-polygroup with Control W, and then now that's a different polygroup. So when I do this, right, you'll see that this doesn't weld, right? So it's not welded at all. Okay, if I want it to weld together, then I would just do that, and then it's all the one piece. Okay, and then now from here, there needs to be a little bit of a cut going on here. So in fact, I'm liking, let's again do this. Hold on. Let me see, I need to see, thank you, what I'm doing here. There we go. I'm going to raise this a little bit more, actually. Just a touch. Just a touch more. All right, and then now, let's get this back on. And let's make this cut in here. Okay? And this is why the piece might be separate, because you see this thing in the front's doing something very unique and different. Okay? So I'm going to now go clip circle. And I'm going to clip and just get this matched. And I'm going to hold the Alt key. And then it'll clip that out. So now I have this. Right? Giving me that. And then this front piece. Right? From here. So let's mask off this part. And then this is doing something very different. Especially when you look at here. Right? It's kind of cutting in like this, like more like a V shape. See this? It's a little bit of different shape, just a little different. So I'm going to then switch to my clip curve, and then start looking at this more like that. Bring it down more. Yeah, something more in that realm. There. Okay, and then now there's that piece. Okay, so you can see this is all it is for me. I'm just trying to get to the point where I'm making the ship come together and making sure I get all the proportions right and the silhouettes right, right? I do this first pass, and then I go through again and start refining the shapes and getting them a little bit more accurate, right? Because if you look at, this has lost its accuracy, right, along the way. I stopped paying attention to that, and I've lost, this isn't flat straight across necessarily like that per se, right? But it's only because I don't have the taper, right? This is going to taper up like this. And right now I don't have that tapering effect happening. So that's what's throwing it off. This is why I will tend to sometimes just quickly do these blocking out. And once again, I don't work on this for like what we've been doing on in this stream. Right? So I'm usually going fast on this. Okay? And so let's go ahead and I'm going to put, I just want to put the wings on because it's starting to affect me. Let's put some of the wings on. All right, so I'm going to do the big wing here first. Okay, let's establish that wing. So let's just use this. Let's copy this again. Cube. Okay, now I need this to sit over here, though. Okay, and it definitely needs to be longer. Something like this. Good, and then I'm going to re-dynamesh this. And then now that I have topology, again, once again, we're masking off stuff. And now it's just clipping really fast, getting that shape, getting that there. Okay, good. Getting this shape here. Great. Okay, I'm going to re-Dynamesh, so it just gives me new mesh. And then now I need to come through here. Get this. And then get this shape. And I'll refine this a little bit more, I guess. Give me that. Okay, so from top view, we're good there now. Right, so this is clearly a lot skinnier, right? It's a wing. So let's bring this way down a notch. So right about to there. Right, and then now we've got a shape that we need. This has got angles in it now, right? So this wing, if you notice, has an angle, right? And you can see in the other references, this is what we want to start looking at now. So it kind of goes straight across and then comes down, right? So you can see here, too, kind of goes straight and then comes down at a certain point of interest, right? And that point of interest coming straight down is within this, right? The exhaust, and before this plane shifting right here, right? You can see that's happening before. So then that's important information for me to use as a guide now to start making this look more correct. Okay, so that first thing I want to do is make these wings not so thick. So this is another example where I'm going to actually split this off, and we're going to make this back wing. We'll call it main back wing. Okay, and then now I just need to get this to be looking a little different. So I'm going to go from the back view now, and then this is a great view for me to see really what these wings are doing. Okay, so I'm going to live more in that world, and then now from here, this needs to cut across like that, and that's a little too much. I'm going to go more in that world. And then now this can come across, not like that, but come across up to there, and then across like that. Right? And then re-Dynamesh that. So now we have that. Right? And just like that, we're starting to get the shape that I want to have for this wing. So now I'm going to refine the top view again a little bit, clean that up a little bit, and that up a little bit, right? And then the images aren't matching perfectly right now, right? So, but we've got that wing now in there, right? So I'm going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to go more in that realm. And then I mirror and weld across to get the other side. Right? And then now I got to start doing the rest of the tail. Okay? Let's see, I'm taking a look at the questions again. Chamfering by creasing is just dividing. When you divide, it's gonna chamfer automatically, right? But there is a chamfering in dynamic subdiv, but it's global. It does it to the whole mesh. Otherwise, if you're creasing and using polygroup, it'll become chamfered for you. Is Marcio still here? Marcio, are you still here? No, Colin. There is no way to preserve UVs. No. Because Dynamesh is making a completely different mesh. So it can't maintain the UVs. Okay, so Marcia, Marcio, sorry. You were asking about chamfering and everything too. So here, let me turn this stuff off, right? So this is where I'm at right now, right? So I gotta now go finish the back end portion, and then from pretty much this point on, now it needs to start getting refined more, right? I'm not there yet. Okay, so to your question, all right. If you're going to use increasing, that means you're using lower polygon stuff, right? In most cases, when you've made the creasing, you are already at low polygon. So if I take something like this and let's crease it, right? And then I turn on dynamic subdiv, okay? All it's maintained is a cube. And then my smooth subdivs, I set to even 4, 5, 6. It's still going to be that sharp cube. However, if because I'm using creasing, okay, right here, if I uncrease, as an example, let's switch to Z modeler, okay, and then I'm going to go crease, partial, and uncrease, you can see there's your chamfer, right? Because now these edges are no longer creased, right? So then obviously it's going to chamfer this. Now the other thing that I like to do is this is so sharp, I want a little bit of roundness there as well. So because I'm using creasing, and because I'm using right now dynamic subdiv as well, so I can see what's happening, my dynamic subdivisions is set to 4 right now, right here, right? So I've got dynamic subdiv on, right? So if I have it off, it's just a cube. I have it on, it's giving me that. I got this at 4, and then if I come down here to this crease level, if I drop this down to 2 or 3, you can see how all of this softens up now. Right? So this is what, if I put it at 3, that's telling ZBrush keep the creased edges for 3 of the 4 subdivision levels. And when you get to subdivision level 4, allow some smoothing happening. So in essence, I'm also getting smoothing right here. Right? And then of course, if I want even more, I just up this, and you can see this is then what I'm starting to generate. Okay, and if I drop down, those edges become even more soft, and I drop down again. See, and then you can get something like this. So in essence, you can use creasing with this crease level, kind of control what you want to have happening. Is that what you were looking for? And hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correct, Marcio. And then Colin, hopefully to answer your question, you can't maintain your UVs with Dynamesh. But you could use painting and stuff to you can keep your polygroups though, and then use those polygroups to remake the UVs in a way. Okay, and then the angle for the clip curve. Okay, and you're talking about how am I doing this? Like this kind of an angle? How am I getting that to happen? I'm assuming is what you're asking me. Or like I want to come across like this, or come more like that. I'm just tapping the Alt key. So if you tap the Alt key, you drop a point of interest along the curve, and every time you tap the Alt key, you can go a different direction. Right? And if you double tap the Alt key, it becomes a harsh transition instead of a soft transition. That's all I was doing. But if say also something like this, you could also just use the circle, right, and get that shape here, right? If I now, anything that's in the circle is maintained and everything else is clipped. Is that answering your question, Giovanni? Okay, great. All right. How do you poly paint with texture? There's multiple ways to do that. You can either just assign a texture to a brush, right? So if I grab the paintbrush and then I fill this with RGB color fill objects, right? And then now I just grab a texture, right? And then as I'm painting, you get the texture, right? And then you can switch this to a drag rectangle and drag it out like this. right? And if you have your focal shift at a -100, then you get just the straight up texture like that, right? But you also could just use spotlight. Like I could grab this image, put it right here, okay? And in fact, I like to turn on spotlight radius like this, so that when I hit the Z key, to see the images disappear, but they're still there, okay? And then now I'm gonna go, all right, take this, okay, and let's divide it up. Let's give it a little bit more love. Brush, paint, okay, texture, and then let's just grab any old texture, throw it in spotlight, and then now that this is here, okay, I can paint with this, see? So this is another way to do it. Right, and right now I'm painting symmetrically, so if I turn symmetry off, right, it's just going to paint whatever image is there. And you can use this as sculptural information as well, okay? So you can either add an image to a brush, okay? And then there you go. Marcio, yeah, I'm going to do it across the entire model, right? What I was building, what I'm building here. Again, I was still at the very beginning stages, right, of my model. And then I'm going to be using those techniques across the whole model as I go. And then Bob, yeah, absolutely. I use ZModeler to do full-fledged, like I've done ships also with ZModeler, weapons, everything. Yeah, I love ZModeler the way it works. You know, and you can do a combination of what you're used to, i.e. like you said, Maya, and then a combination of that and ZModeler. You could make a really dynamic, fun workflow. Absolutely. Really, what I was building, I could have taken the approach of doing, making the whole ship with low polygon if I want, which was asked. The reason why I don't tend to always start low polygon with certain things is because there's just certain angles that instead of having to be constrained to edge looping, I'm not constrained. I can just get the shape that I need to get by sculpturally doing it hard surface wise. And it's not like I can't retopologize with one click of the button, or even retopologize with ZBrush, or just literally, now that I have that piece, use it as my guide to make other pieces. So that makes sense, right? So if I reload this, well, I think I got something. Let me get to it again. Right, so what I'm saying is I didn't have to necessarily go this route, right? Some of these, like this piece here, I could have done low polygon for sure, 100%, right? But I'm just, again, I'm going to try and work as fast as I can to get to the end result, which is, let me block out the piece. It's just like if you were building organic, right? If you're going to build an entire human body, you don't just only build the head and then get the head to full details before you've already made sure all the proportions are right in the body. It's the same thing for hard surface for me. So this is why I go about this approach. Okay? It's about quickly getting things in place, getting those general shapes, getting the general shape here of everything, like I did in here. It's not perfect, but it's going to become perfect in stage 2. So this is stage 1, mapping it out, getting things right, getting the proportions right, getting the physical size of relationships between things, and then moving into the hard surfacing, make it look hard surface. So again, I shouldn't be spending 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours doing something like this right now. Like, this is really a quick 30-minute get it where it needs to be, and then I'm using these as then to go remake pieces. Does that help, Bob? Explain more things for you? $249L 5040. I'm not sure what you're talking. Are you talking about just a crash? It happens sometimes once in a blue moon. with Spotlight. It's not any particular feature, I don't think. Not that I've found. So. Colin, yeah, I can. If you guys want me to continue this, I can, yeah, 100% continue this in upcoming streams, for sure. Yeah. We can continue this. So I guess my goal would be to get this to a point where it's a little bit more looking like that. Hello, Pedro from Barcelona. I'm modeling right now off the drop ship of Aliens. As you can see, my reference imagery. I got inspired by a recent book, again, that I purchased. I purchased the Aliens blueprint book, and actually for another project. And honestly, one of them I teach as well, and one of the students is doing the Sulaco, and she got this book. I'm like, this book's awesome. I'm gonna get this book, and it's only like $25 on the U.S. Amazon. And I was flipping through. I'm like, you know what? The dropship's so cool. Let me do that in the stream. Let me have some fun and see building the dropship from Aliens. And then never know. I might take this even another direction, make it my own, and use the dropship as like inspiration. So that's what I'm doing. All right. So unfortunately, I have to get going. Once again, I appreciate you all for taking the time to sit through here and watch me try and block this out live and then answer your questions as we go. Yeah, well, since you guys requested, can I continue this? I will continue doing this for sure. Giovanni, you're asking, is there a way to sculpt details on a model and apply at the same time a material ID? Yes. Sure. Well, when you say material, you can assign a material at the same time. But you're using material IDs, it's polygrouping. So no, you can't apply a polygroup with all strokes, which is probably what you're going to use in Substance. You're going to use polygrouping as your IDs. But you can paint with material ID, for sure. You can do that. So when you go in and here, let's turn this off, right? If I'm looking at this, and again, once again, we're in painting. So I'm going to fill this with this color. And you can paint, right, with this, but you also can fill with material, right? So if I take this material color fill object, and then I take a different material, let's use red wax, and you can see I can paint portions with red wax. Okay, so you do have that ability, but the material's not going to go into Substance. So you're better off using, honestly, I would use color, right, as material ID, or Clown Pass ID, like this, right? Picking things of the same polygroups and then using that as your ID for in Substance. Okay, does that help? Right, so if I want this piece and this piece of the same, I would probably make these then the same polygroup. So when you assign their material to that ID, they both get it. All right. Bob, I'll do my best. What I'll do is I'll see if I can get this today to more of where I would want to be at the end of this. And then we'll go into how am I going to start refining these shapes, making them look better and things like that, which will involve ZModeler and other techniques. Absolutely. Let's do that. Let's go for that. So later on today, I'm going to try and finish this up a little bit. And in fact, since we're all in here right now, I know I already said goodbye. Let's do this. Let's make on ZBrush Central, let's make a topic thread so you guys can follow along, and I'll put up where we're at, and then we can have conversations even through there. So let me get on ZBrush Central, let's make a topic, and then let me share that topic with you all. That way we can communicate in there. You know, we can talk about things that maybe you'd want to see in the next time I'm working on this. Let's do this. Okay, so let me make a topic, and let's put this in the topic actually. All right, and that way, work in progress, aliens, drop ship. And here is the I'll add more later. Okay, let's take an image just so we have an image here. Let's just take this and let's not make it red. Just keep it like this, and we'll go back to madcap gray. There you are. Okay, super early stages. Document, export. We'll save an image here. First stage. JPEG it. Let's go to desktop here. All right, save it. Good enough. And now let me get that image for you guys. So we'll at least have some imagery to connect with it. Where are you? There you are. Whoops. Okay, and really early. What is it, the 30th? Yeah, the 30th. And we're in July. July 30th, 2021. Post. Oh, let me categorize it. Post. All right, so let me share this post with you all now. There we go. And then that way, you guys can even communicate in there with me too. Okay. You saw my password. How is it? I didn't even know how it was showing. Oh, cause you guys are seeing me type it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll change the password. Thank you. Yeah, I forgot I had that little thing up there. Yeah. All right, so there you go. We can follow along in there. I'll continue working on this today, get more of the block out done, and then we'll start at that, and we'll come back to the next screen, and then we'll move on to other stages through this. All right, so thank you all again for watching. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for coming by. Again, I'm Paul Gaboury with Pixologic, and I'm out.